football team. Pac-12 football guy, once again live from Flathead Lake, Montana. That football team referenced by Roger Waters, of course, is a soccer team, not football. Good morning, July 3rd. And I wrote something. I'm still just completely distraught over the USC UCLA. So I wrote something. The Rose Bowl officially died Thursday. The granddaddy of them all passed suddenly after a massive stroke. It wasn't a massive stroke of genius. It wasn't a massive stroke of innovation. It was just another massive stroke of greed. Money trumped tradition. Money trumped one diehard West Coast college football followers. Money killed the Conference of Champions. USC and UCLA are packing their bags for places like Bloomington, Purdue, State College, Lincoln, New Jersey, of course, and many other campuses far from the sunny shores of Tinseltown. They're dicks at UCLA and USC. The death of the Pac-12 was quick and, quite frankly, still very painful. It'll be 2 years before the final funeral, but make no mistake, the conference is a goner. USC and UCLA have been in the Pac-12 for 94 years. The Bruins are blue blood in hoops. 10 national championships. SC, top 5 national team, 11 national football titles. These programs excelled on the national stage for decades, yet somehow both schools did this from the heart of Westwood and South Central. Yet in a matter of weeks, the Bruins and Trojans threw it all away. I am truly crushed by this news. Been a Pac-12 fan since the early 70s. I grew up 10 minutes from Westwood. I loved the Bruins. I snuck into Pauley Pavilion, played hoops. I was the original Pac-12 After Dark, going to the UCLA games at the Coliseum. In the late 70s, Theodis Brown, Skippy Neuheisel, Terry Donahue was the coach. Meanwhile, down in South Central, John Robinson had Charlie White and the mighty Trojans, who were good then. I hated SC, hated them. That hate is slowly coming back. After a few years in Boulder and the Flatirons, I ended up at SC. It took exactly one game for me to hate UCLA. One game. Now living in the Pacific Northwest for almost 30 years, fallen in love with the region, the seasons, the awesome football experiences from Corvallis, Eugene to Husky Stadium, War Memorial in Cal. And if you want a lesson in loyalty, try being a Ducks fan in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And yeah, you had 1993, but Joe Puck covered the 19 points. Try being a Beaver believer pretty much anytime ever except the 2001 Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame and any game of relevance versus USC at Reser. Beaver fans are awesome. Cordial, classy, even when they don't have to be. And it's really, this whole thing is so sad given the promise. Lincoln Riley, SC was going to be back. Dan Lanahan, the Ducks were going to be good. The Utes, are the defending Pac-12 champions. It was all the eyes were going to be on us. Why do it now? Why do it now? But what is loyalty anymore? What is a handshake? Whatever happened to looking out for your fellow programs of 50, 60, 70 years? Turns out USC and UCLA didn't give a flying fuck about tradition or the fans living anywhere from Orange County to Seattle. Money and then some more money screwed over a generation of fans. And let's be clear, it didn't happen in the blue. The Pac-12 was woefully mismanaged for years. The leadership, the horrific TV contract, and the stench of Larry Scott and his arrogance led us to this day. But SC and UCLA chose the easy route. They had leverage, and they used it. They blew up the alliance that was less than a year old, and I'm sure Carol Folt is not making many new friends. They were selfish. They didn't think for a second about rivalries, tradition, and certainly not the Rose Bowl. And enough already about student athletes. What about women volleyball taking 5-hour flights for weekend tournaments? What about softball in Minneapolis in March? How often will SC actually play, or the Bruins play Michigan, Ohio State? There's 16 teams in the Big Ten. And we all know that football pays the bills. But what about the Bills in Boulder, Corvallis, and Pullman? The Buffs, Beavs, Cougs, and the rest of the conference will be picked through like a $10 sweatshirt at a Saturday garage sale. And we all know that the Ducks and Huskies will leave the Pac-12. I guarantee it. They're looking for the Big Ten, but we have to wait for God, Notre Dame, to be wined and dined by the Big Ten before deciding on joining. Only then will the Huskies and the Ducks get an interview. But mark my words, there's no way the Ducks and Huskies. So they will go. SC and UCLA are the bad ones. They should be the bad ones. But Ducks are leaving too. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. We celebrate our independence. And yet there's not much to celebrate these days. The Supreme Court is driving us back to the dark ages. In 2 weeks, they've gutted 50 years of precedent, equality, safety, and the environment to preserve the desires of the minority. And most of this minority happens to live in the SEC and the Big Ten. How about that? Football's always just been my refuge. A refuge 3.5 hours on a Saturday, even though I watch 12 hours on a Saturday, but just get away from the world. And yet, like so much in this country that's going down the shitter, it's greed and selfishness ruled the day. So happy birthday, America. FU USC, FU UCLA. Enjoy the frequent flyer miles, the bus rides to nowhere, and the layovers in Iowa City on a snowy Saturday night. Keith Jackson is rolling over in his grave. Whoa, Nelly, you boys are a bunch of idiots. Go Buffs!